Hello, everyone. How you doing? You're very welcome to this week's Last Word in Formula One with myself, Aidan Raftery, and of course, as always, the man from Mexico, Costa del Mexico. Sorry, I should say, Michael O'Grady, and it's a real Mexican name. That O'Grady name, isn't it?
I suppose it probably actually, funny enough, the O'Grady name comes from the Midlands somewhere
There you
originally.
go.
I can't remember the name of the area because remember we were on holidays there, and there was actually an O'Grady Lake,
There you go.
and
So, and then we exported you then.
exactly, and there was also an O'Grady church, a church defended by the O'Gradys. Now, my grandfather would love this no end because it was a Protestant church, so he
Oh,
wouldn't
fair
be
enough.
very happy if he was still alive. But that's the way it is.
Also, you have a tendency to wander into churches every now and again.
Oh, a tendency to do all sorts around here, could be very
That's
dangerous.
true. We won't go into that now because this is a live show. But
That's okay.
yeah, so on this week's show, we're looking back on the Japanese Grand Prix. Nothing to
We,
look forward to. I don't mean that in a bad way. To look
no,
forward to this weekend, as there's no Grand Prix this weekend, but there's going to be news. So we're looking back at the Japanese Grand Prix and some Formula One news. So take it away there, Michael.
well, I have a curious one for Formula One news earlier, but qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix, I hope everyone was watching it because we were all in awe and shocked to find that Max Verstappen was on pole position. I mean, I never saw that one coming. I don't know about you, in. Did you see that one? I didn't anyway.
About time. All I'll say is it's about time he came pole position.
About time he got pole. It is true, actually, isn't it? Now, the really
I mean, the
oddball
last time
was
he got pole position was the race before last. That's a
yeah, it wasn't actually the
ago.
last race at all, was it? Oh my,
Oh,
just
that was qualification. Sorry, that was qualifying.
absolutely, he needed that. He needed it for this one, didn't he? Well, the big news, I suppose, was second and third place because two McLarens. Oh, how good is it to see an old team like McLaren after many, many, many years at this stage struggling with two good drivers getting second and third place on the I mean, that was just incredible. They
I mean,
had
especially with you being a neutral Red Bulls supporter fan, or very.
oh, absolutely.
We won't go there.
I don't know. I have to admit, I was kind of loving watching the McLarens go around because I'm just looking here. Yeah, there was a bit of a difference now between Max Verstappen and the two McLarens. Piastri being second, and there was, what is it here, point 0.6 of a second. But there's literally, a hair's width between, of course, Piastri and Norris on qualifying, and Charles Leclerc breathing down their neck and Sergio Perez behind that. So it was a good qualifying session. I don't think anybody expected both McLarens to be in the top three. Most people expected maybe Lando Norris to get there and Piastri be a little bit down from there. But that is the way it goes. The race, on the other hand, was, well, it went from normal racing to chaos, back to normal racing to chaos again. It was a weird situation, I have to admit, for some of the drivers. The one thing we didn't expect was right at the start when Max Verstappen took off, Lando Norris came up like a man possessed on one side and Oscar Piastri on the other side. And I can tell you, Max Verstappen had the widest pair of elbows you've ever come across in your entire life. That car got wider instantly because he was nearly in trouble. It was nearly a McLaren gone past him. It was that close. It was great to see. I have to admit, it was great to see.
So,
Everyone's
what was the
expecting
qualifying time, or what was the quickest time in the qualifying?
the quickest time in the qualifying was obviously Max Verstappen at a 1:28.877. And then you go back 6 tenths to Piastri at a 1:29.458. So, but now that said, 1:29.4 all the way down to 1:29.9. That's half a second, and that covered basically second place to Hamilton in seventh.
So
So,
basically, what you're saying is you and Paul Egan went on overdrive on your Skeletric set.
that does happen from time to time, all right. Yes,
Yeah.
that can happen from time to time. We can neither
Now
confirm nor
we're not condoning gambling, but there was a lot having
no.
been changed hands on that day between
Yeah.
yourself
Uh,
and Paul Egan
and
on
of
the
course,
Skeletric set.
we can neither confirm nor deny the great Scale Electrics disaster of 2022. Nothing to do with us. But
It's still
anyhow,
under review. I think that's still That's still going under. I think the FIA are still investigating that. Obviously, I think.
I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny they're investigating it either. But it was, I have to admit, great to see Max Verstappen in the middle of a McLaren sandwich. It was just really unusual. It's not something you'd normally see.
Yeah.
And right behind him, of course, the amazing Fernando Alonso. I have all the time in the world for this guy. He just needs the car. Wake up and give him the car.
Well, maybe if you took him away from the car and he just runs around the track, I wonder how.
Well, I tell you, with him, he'd nearly be fast because he jumped 4 cars on the start. You wouldn't believe it. Jumped 4 cars. Where did he start? 10th. And he ended up down in 6th. Jumped all 4 cars. Were just absolutely incredible. Get this guy a sniff at all near the front, and he's just gone. He really is. But unfortunately, the day didn't really work well for Fernando Alonso. And I'll come back to that because, of course, at the end of the first lap, we had the safety car out because of, how shall I put it? Well, there was a lot of debris around. There was a couple of battles going on, and a couple of nose cones got mushed, and a few other bits and pieces got kind of.
So yourself and Paul Egan had to get a new scale electric set.
Absolutely, we did. Hamilton was out in the grass. Both Alfa Romeos were kind of fighting each other, which was amazing. I'm surprised it didn't end up in the collision before that, because you had the start, you had the 3 cars, the 2 McLarens, and Max Verstappen in the middle, going into the first corner, and then you had 4 cars in a line right behind that, the 2 Ferraris, Hamilton and Perez. I'm surprised there wasn't actually more carnage as it went around. There's a bit of a bumping and scraping, and a few end plates missing, and a few very unlucky people. Valtteri Bottas being one of them, because he didn't only hit someone once, he hit someone else again and then put himself out of the race. That wasn't a great start for him, but look, these things happen.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, well, that's very true. It was Alex Albon and Bottas actually at the start, and the car kind of jumped almost with Bottas hitting it. How Albon didn't put it in to a tyre wall, I have no idea. Cat-like reflexes or something. I couldn't put my finger on it. He kept that car going absolutely straight on. He really did. As then Bottas went in for the pits, and Albon went in, and Perez actually damaged his front nose. Local sergeant it was just totally chaos for after the first lap. Guys in left, right, and centre, and it was just mad that the lads that were 3 abreast and 4 abreast all actually made it successfully around the track. But no, look, that's the way it is, really, isn't it? But it was even more bad luck for Bottas, I have to admit. Sargent was there, and Bottas decided he was going to go around the outside, and Logan Sargent then hit the brakes a little too hard, and basically one slipped into the other, and Valtteri Bottas is off the track again.
So I suppose really, when these things happen, there's as we say in the physio world, there's the mechanics of the injury. So I suppose in a Formula One instance, there would have to have been the mechanics, pardon the pun, of the crash. So yes. Was it down to tire selection? Was it the bends? Was it too fast around corners? Was it, what was it?
Yeah, I'd say it's too many cars trying to go into the same corner at the same time.
That would do it, yeah.
We all can't go in, lads. You know what I mean? The top 7 managed to get through, and how they did that I don't know, because the lads behind them were like 3 wide, and they were all hitting each other, and one guy goes to the left to defend, and he doesn't realize there's 2 cars beside him, and then suddenly one's hitting into the other. Now the second crash of Bottas was just basically a bit of a mistake by Logan Sargent. He hit the brakes too hard, then he skidded over, and then he pushed Valtteri Bottas off. We can't really, you can't really overly blame Sargent for that. He isn't as seasoned as some of the drivers, and to be honest with you, he's fighting to stay in Formula One at the minute. He's not in it very long, but he isn't really making a massive impact, and that didn't help, if you know what I mean. So Valtteri Bottas was, I suppose, the first instance he was just being squeezed and went across and onto Albon. Nothing could be done. So perhaps to a certain extent, it may not have been his fault, maybe slightly. But with Logan Sargent, no, that was definitely Logan Sargent's fault there, and Bottas wasn't pleased. And the other man,
was a physics thing.
Well, that's very true. The other thing was actually Sergio Perez. I don't know what exactly was going on with him. Yeah, I mean, he didn't start too bad. He was in fifth place, and you had everybody left, right, and center going left, right, and center, and everything like that. But it was like frustration kicked in because he had to go in for a bit of a repair after the first lap, and then sort of as the day went on, it even got worse for him again because again he came up on Magnussen, and there was contact again. I mean, what a day it was! He already got a 5-second penalty for the first accident, and now he is Magnussen. He's sending him off the road with a really bad dive from Perez. There was no way he was getting by. I don't know how he figured it out, but he just kept going, and sent Magnussen then around the corner, and just, I'm not quite sure what was going on there. It's not like Sergio Perez. He's a good driver, and fifth place isn't that, yeah, he couldn't be that frustrated, as to say, with a fifth place. But
and I mean, when you look at it, I mean, these are very experienced, especially the likes of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. These are all very experienced drivers, and it's kind of nuts to think that with that in mind, these things are kind of happening. Like in the.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It is a bit of a silly situation, and Perez eventually he had to just retire the car. It was as simple as that. He did enough
damage. Did this happen in last year's one?
No, not as bad as this. But Perez has tried this Kevin Magnussen stint before.
It's a bit like the Aidan Grand National, really. It's on.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, he did. He did. He actually did it on Albon in the Singapore Grand Prix. Exactly the same move, breaking from trying to brake too late and getting from way too far away. You're not going to overtake him.
You get the feeling they don't like one another, don't you?
Well, maybe it was Albon the last one. It was Magnussen this one. So I don't know. I think someone needs to say to him, calm it down a bit there, Sergio. Well, you're a bit closer. You're closer. It could be the situation where, you had to go in and get the nose fixed, back out again, way down the order for Sergio Perez yet again. And then he was good, probably had enough of that, just made the mistake, but it was never going to happen. You could see it quite clearly. It's not going to happen, and unfortunately Kevin Magnussen off, and eventually he had to box the car too. There was a bit of silliness came on with that later. I'm going to leave that.
That's very Formula One like, isn't it?
Exactly, because I have me bit cheeky in City Bugger section still, and I kind of adding an info section to it now as well, because there was a very unusual one, I have to admit, and with Sergio Perez, and I think everyone was scratching their heads as to what in the name of God was going on. But I'll come back to it. I know I have you at the edge of your seat now. I know that.
At the edge of my armchair, yeah.
After the cars all got started again, another big mistake on the day was Fernando Alonso got called in on lap 12 for a pit stop. Now, bearing in mind, they did one lap safety car. Then the safety car came in on lap 6. Now, Fernando, unlike everybody else in the top 15, was on soft tyres. Now, they wouldn't have got an awful lot of wear in the 4 laps stuck behind the safety car. So theoretically, by lap 12, he had only done 7 laps on the soft tyre. And he went in for a pit stop. Now, it wasn't his call. It was team strategy. There was nothing wrong with his tyres. He was absolutely flying around. Everyone else was on medium tyres.
So what's your theory, Michael? Does it make sense to you, like, doing that?
Sorry?
Did it make sense doing it?
I thought they had something up their sleeve. I thought, we're going to come out in a hard tyre.
If they did, it didn't work.
No, it did not work. He came back out, Alonso, and he was going great for a bit, but suddenly then everyone went in and did the regular pits, and Alonso was promoted forward a bit, but then his tyres were so worn that we're all passing them out for sport. Absolute sport. He was getting so frustrated. He even said across on the radio that you have really affected my race by that early pit stop. He just wasn't happy at all. And actually, there was a quote. I'm looking for my quote. I have it here somewhere from Fernando Alonso. Basically, he just got on the thing. I can't catch him. He's so fast in the straight line. It was a slower car. Everyone's catching us. So do something. That's not like Fernando Alonso. He's normally very positive, but was he happy? No, he was not. He was not happy in the least, I'd have to say. And what was even worse, I suppose, to a certain extent, was he pitted on lap 12 and we had a virtual safety car on lap 14, which was another one, because, there's kind of Kevin Magnussen was going around with Sergio Perez, and then there's debris on the road, virtual safety car, get the debris off, have a look. And it would have been a much better time for him to pull in because, of course, he'd have been laps further down the road.
And so I suppose in real time, Michael, right, as this was happening, I know like you're talking about this now on reflection, but we say as you're watching it live on the TV and it's happening, as it was happening, what were the thoughts in your head like?
When Alonso went in, my thoughts in my head is, are they up to something? There must be something going on here. That's a bit early for soft tires. Now, maybe it wouldn't have been if they hadn't been in the safety car for 4 laps. Then it wouldn't have been too early, and maybe they didn't take that into account. But I was kind of, what's he up to like? He's very strong. He's after jumping 4 places. He's ahead of both Mercedes. He's after getting that far ahead, and suddenly we're pitting, and nobody else is. It was a very strange situation, I have to admit. Once the virtual safety car came out, you're there going, now is the time to pit. But I suppose you can't really predict it coming, but it did seem very early. I thought he was going to maybe put on the hard tires and run till near the end, and then go and change tires and back out again or something, or try a very, very, very long one stop. I wouldn't fancy it. But, it was kind of mystifying. He had jumped from where he was forwards, and now we're pitting him. It just scratching the head. I was hoping for something because he's a great driver. He just needs the car under him. It's as simple as that. The man will overtake anybody. He doesn't care who you are. He will overtake you. He's absolutely incredible on the track, but it just hobbled on the day with the strategy they had. And where he was, he would have been sitting an awful lot prettier and have been an awful lot closer to Hamilton for the next race, because I think, he does feel a bit hard done by, and I can't blame him for that he was third in the championship and now he's fourth, because the car it hasn't been the same in the second half of the year at all so far, and at the end of the first half of the year, the car was just, what's going on here? He was way out in third. What's going on here? So there's a bit,
and that's all over one incident, like. So that could affect his position come the end of the season.
Well, it's already given Hamilton a bit more of a distance ahead of him because, he was ahead of both Mercedes, and he's ended up behind both of the Mercedes, which isn't a great situation. And
it's all none of his doing as well. When you think of it, as you said, it was a team call.
Very true, and there is a kind of a Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin clambering, and now as well, I think McLaren have their eye set on it. If they keep going the way they're going, it just might happen. Into second in the Constructors' Championship, there's a bit of a row going on there for that. So making your driver fall behind one of your main competitors, to me, isn't the best idea.
Annoying for the driver, and then,
Yeah, you know what I mean? It isn't the best. I'd let him out there and just say, tell us when the tires are going off. Keep going, because they had 4 laps under a safety car. Keep going. Tell us when you're ready to come in, because he'd have a better idea. He should have lasted longer. I could have seen those soft.
Imagine if that was imagine if that was between first and second, and that happened.
Oh,
that would be scored, and that imagine like between Lewis Hamilton now and Max Verstappen.
You'd have to go back. You'd have to go back to Ferrari last year for something like that. But speaking of Lewis Hamilton, he's featuring later on. There was a situation in the race where they put Lewis and George on different strategies again. I don't know why they're doing this. Are they trying to make
sure? Is it working? Like, did it work in previous?
Yeah, it's not working. It just
why are they persistent with it? Like, it doesn't.
Well, consistently Hamilton's one sort of works, and consistently Russell's one sort of doesn't work on a regular basis. It's getting a bit like that, because there was a stage there where Russell was faster than Hamilton. He had been into the pits. He had better tires. He had absolutely everything. And he came up on his teammate, who you think would say, right, my teammate is on a different strategy to me. He's going faster currently. I let him behind to work on a strategy, but no. Hamilton actually went to the stage where he drove Russell and himself off the track to make sure Russell didn't get past him. That was seriously silly buggers. Pushing his teammate and himself off the track was just, there was nobody around him, so they weren't going to lose the positions. But still, your teammate's faster, you let him on by. You know what I mean?
Dirty play coming into it now. It's getting a bit like soccer and hurling and football. I know a bit of anything to. We won't go there.
They had switched George Russell to a one-stop strategy. Now, I don't know why they did that, because Alonso came in a little earlier, and it wasn't long until cars were mugging him. And I mean absolutely mugging him. People were just going by him like he wasn't there. He didn't even defend for a few of them because he knew there was no point, and the same could happen to Russell. Well, actually, it did. Russell had a good spot, but when everybody came back out in newer tyres, goodbye, talk to you later. So one stop definitely wasn't a good idea. Pitting early definitely was not a good idea. Alonso should have finished in the top 5, I would have said, at the way he was driving, but just the car just fell off a cliff. Tires fell off a cliff.
What happened in this race in mind?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other, for the rest of the season, are there any other tracks where something like this could happen again?
Oh, this could happen anytime at all. It's just.
So it's not down to a track thing. It could be just.
Well, it wasn't a track thing. No, for George and Fernando, it wasn't a track thing at all.
It was just bad tactics.
Yeah, what are the team thinking here today? Do you know what I mean? I mean, when they saw Alonso falling backwards, rather than let him lose about 6 or 7 places, when they saw how slow he was.
Even if it was raining, you'd say, okay, well, if it was him and raining heavily, you'd say, oh, Genie, in that sort of rain, it's very hard to keep control of a car going at over 100 miles an hour. If it's perfectly just a normal day, then.
But they let him. I think the biggest problem is, they pitted once and then they got bloody minded about pitting the second time, and he started falling backward, and quickly within 2 laps, 2 cars had passed him, and he was going slow, and everyone behind him was gaining on him. Like, that was the time to pit, not after he'd lost 6 or 7 places. It was time to pit after he lost 2, because the car wasn't getting faster. Get him in earlier and get him back out again. At least he could have maybe kept an extra couple of places forwards from his finishing point. You know what I mean? I just thought it was very silly. I couldn't figure out what they were doing. It was almost Ferrari's level of, I don't think we want to win this race.
Pretty unusual.
I mean? Yeah, they had that last year. I don't know what Ferrari were doing with some of their calls. It was like, we don't want to win.
Yeah, again, frustrating for the driver, because the driver wants to win.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it was halfway through the race, really, before Alonso came in for new tyres, and he really was just falling backwards the whole. This should have brought him in about 5 or 6 laps earlier. He could have held on to an extra couple of places, It was just madness, I have to admit. Now he was behind both Mercedes when he came back out again. And I mean, they passed them like he was stopped. They really did. There was nothing going to do it.
They should have brought you on.
Well, at the halfway stage, Norris and Piastri were, well, how will I put it? They were having a chat because Piastri was qualified second, and stayed second. But halfway through the race, it was quite obvious Norris was quicker. He came up on Piastri in no time at all. And it was kind of okay, lads, time to swap the cars around. Okay, that's no problems. And in radios, then why aren't we swapping the cars around? Yeah, we put in the request to swap the cars around. And I think, Oscar Piastri's a new guy. He's trying to make a name for himself, I don't know exactly why, but it took about 5 laps before he actually swapped around with Norris, which kind of, on the day they had enough of a lead that was okay. But, if someone was coming closer from behind, second place could have been scuppered completely for the team. But he did let him by, and just to prove a point, after about 2 laps, Lando Norris was 3.5 seconds ahead of him. He was just.
But
gone.
It seems like what happened today for that team.
Yeah,
things went wrong. You'd like to think that they'll learn from it, but probably not, because you said it happened before. So I mean, it's.
I wouldn't be so I tell you, sometimes they don't seem to learn anything at all, and they make the same
Might as
mistakes.
well be straight about it. I mean, like, there's no use in making mistakes and then not learn from them and continue making the mistakes. They won't get anywhere.
Absolutely, it really was. I mean, as someone who follows Formula One and not professional, who's in there doing strategies, calling Fernando Alonso win on the soft tires on lap 12 after 4 laps under a safety lap, I wouldn't do that.
Because do you know what, Michael? If I was in his position, I'd actually walk at the end of the season. I'd say, look, I'm not going to be in a team that wants us to lose races. Do you know, in fairness, as a driver, you're born to win. It's like a player playing hurling or football or soccer. You want to win the game.
That's
but they're straitjacketed by the experts on the sideline, if you know what I mean. You know, so I mean, like, to get out of that situation, the only way he has is go to a different team.
Yeah, he can't really do. Alonso is in such good form and is driving so well. That man could win a world championship dead easy. Just give him the right car. Now the problem is,
right car, but wrong tactics. So
well, that's true. But I mean, he's not going to get a Ferrari. They're locked in. He's not going to get a Red Bull. They're not interested in moving their drivers. He's not getting a Mercedes because he will not, under any circumstances, share a garage with Lewis Hamilton. So that's not going to happen. So really, the next one after that,
the only other option then is just do a David Coulthard and do TV commentary for Sky Sports. Don't worry, we're keeping you. We're not letting you go. Like, you know, you have a contractual agreement now, and there's no clauses in your
Yes, but I think maybe the only move he could possibly make would be to McLaren, which is a move no one would have seen coming. Well, I think they're pretty happy with their drivers. Piastri now, his contract's just been extended to 2026, and Lando Norris is going nowhere because the man is doing an amazingly good job. You know, pat on the back, good old Lando. You know, you stake with us. You know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's a tubrity, just a tubsidy, just to keep you here. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
they don't want to go
dirty
anywhere. Oh, I had to get it in. I had to get it in.
You were itching to get that out for the last couple of weeks, weren't you?
Yeah, I have been itching for a while, actually, a tubsidy. But they had it, and they're not going to go. So all he can really do is sit tight and hope that Aston Martin are going to move forwards. And there is news on that. We'll come back to that. But I mean, it was just such a bad strategy. You know, it was unbelievable. And I was saying for Russell, lap 35, he's ploughing around the track, and he gets a hurry up call from the team because to say there could be issues towards the end of the race. Of course, there could be issues towards the end of the race. His tires are starting to go the same as Fernando Alonso's tires. So he's going to be going backwards fairly quickly, you know. And I mean, Hamilton and Leclerc pitted and they were behind him with no stop for Russell. They weren't behind him for very long, the way his tires were going. I mean, it was just, it was complete silliness. The race ended up with Verstappen first, Norris second, and Piastri third, which was a great result for McLaren. They really deserved it. Leclerc kept fourth, Hamilton fifth, with Carlos Sainz closing on him. Didn't get enough time, another few laps maybe. George Russell in seventh, who was ahead of all four of those in front of him before the tyres decided to play silly buggers and we're not getting anywhere. So Russell could have finished an awful lot better. And Alonso in eighth, he could have finished fifth, dead easy, without the bad calls. Russell and Alonso would have definitely been more forwards from where they were, which was a terrible thing to say, but look, it is what it is at this stage. There's not an awful lot you could do about it. But yeah, I think again, it was just Russell on a bad plan and Alonso on a bad plan. It just didn't make any sense. Both of them were fast. I mean, Russell was faster than Hamilton before his first stop, and Hamilton hadn't stopped either, and he was faster. And Alonso was fast, you know, and it was just someone made a bad idea, thought it was clever, and it didn't really work, you know. Now they're really into on with Perez. Oh dear. Perez retired the car, as we know. Now, he got a 5-second penalty for his first instance of little taps and tickles at the start of the race. So he got a 5-second penalty. And then he pushed Magnussen off the track and had to pull back in. Then he went out and had to retire the car. That was damage. Well, he wasn't going to get anywhere. After he retired the car, He got a 5-second penalty. Now, no one thought anything about that. And everybody was okay, and
I mean, it's
everybody was
not it's
sitting
not as
there.
though penalty points are given in every race or anything, you know.
No, they don't give
Very
penalty
rarely
points.
do that. They ever hear a penalty. Oh,
Oh yeah, you know
non
yourself.
event, like, you know, yeah.
But there was a bit of something going on. And 13 I'm using this number significantly. 13 laps after he retired, Sergio Perez got into the car. Now, the engineers are there. The lads had the blankets on the tires, and he's sitting in the car. And everyone's going, what? What's going on? Is it an extended test session? Are they doing something weird? He's 13 laps down. What exactly is going on? Well,
That's a lot of laps.
after a couple of laps, he's still sitting there in the car trying to figure out what's going on. And I noticed the pit wall. I'd say what was happening is the pit wall were having a discussion with the stewards about the 5-second penalty, because
they could have done that while he was out while he was doing the laps, and then let him go.
Absolutely. Well, you see, the problem was it was to do with the finishing positions of cars, and if he didn't serve his penalty, well, then they'd have to give him might have to give him a penalty for the next race. So you had the lads in Red Bull going, come on, he's out of the race. What's going on, Ted? And the lads on the other side going, no, Dougal, he has to do his 5-second penalty. So after 26 laps out of the race from retirement, he had to go out and do 2 laps, serve his penalty, a lap, come in, serve his penalty, do 1 more lap, and go into the pits in order to, so their timing system is correct. I mean, he retired. He wasn't going to change. I don't think everyone was scratching their heads. It would have been great. Years ago, I think up to about 2019, you could actually get the radio messages from the pit wall to the stewards. They don't do that anymore, which is a pity, because I'd love to have been there hearing that one going to and fro, to and fro, to and fro. It would have been great crack. I have to admit, it really would. Something else,
There's 4 minutes left now, and we're getting on to the news, Michael.
We'll head on to the news. We will. And he has to just jump over to his other section because he was looking at that. Facts and stats. Verstappen could actually win the Formula One World Championship in 2 weeks, a week and a half time, actually, when they hit Qatar next. Because if he wins sprint qualifying, he has the world championship. So there you go. Max Verstappen already has it, as to say. So it's absolutely incredible for him, I have to admit. Brilliant. Now, there was someone I was looking at here, and it's a particular item that I don't want to pass. I'm finding it on my way. This was the one I was talking to you about Aston Martin. Alonso says Aston Martin are pushing flat out on developments and trying to get up to second place after Suzuka. They want to get there for the Constructors' Championship. They know there is a chance of getting Fernando into third place, and I hope they're going to push for that. That's what we're hoping to do. And beside that, McLaren are actually targeting Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship, and they're absolutely flying at the minute, as we know. So, yeah, I think Aston Martin want to be pulling out a few stops. There's the article I wanted. There is a very nice person called Jessica Hawkins. She just completes a debut F1 test with Aston Martin in Hungary. Are we going to get a female Formula One driver? And will Jessica Hawkins be that driver? It would be nice to see. Now, perhaps you won't see her until maybe either Lance Stroll is no longer driving for Aston Martin or Fernando Alonso retires. Personally, I think it'd be a great benefit to get for anyone to be in there instead of Lance Stroll at the moment. He's doing absolutely miserable. He really is. He's just not pulling his weight at all.
A new rival for Max Verstappen, perhaps?
Well, perhaps you wouldn't know. Could be any. We have to wait and see. I was reading an article earlier, Julian Palmer, who's a former F1 driver, and the article was titled "What's Happened to Perez's Precision Racecraft." Go on F1.com. That's actually quite a good article. because I think a lot of people is wondering what exactly is going on with Checo, and it might just shed a little bit of light on the subject, as they say. You know yourself, it's always nice to have a bit more. Another one I absolutely love this week, Oscar Piastri, third, his first podium. And he's a rookie driver and absolutely brilliant, chuffed to himself. And the first thing he does is single out areas for improvement on the car. You have to admit that's confidence. That is confidence. You know, first thing, we need
to
change.
Could be a long list.
It could be a long list. We don't actually know, but you would hope so. We'd wait and see. We'll wait and see exactly what happens. But I mean, you've only gotten the podium once, and you are a rookie. Telling them how to change the car. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. I also noticed that Yuki Tsunoda is frustrated after missing out on points in Japan. Well, it was his home Grand Prix, but I mean, let's face it. The car is not really up to it. It's not a major surprise that he didn't get points on the day. The next big article I saw was Hamilton insists Mercedes need greatest 6 months of development we've ever had to close the gap to Red Bull. Now, he says they need it. So it's not that they're doing it, that they need it. So we'd have to wait and see there. I think they actually just needs to get their act together a bit more, because at the moment McLaren are gone past them too, so they're not second. They may be second currently at the minute, but McLaren might see to that. Yes,
that's
yourself.
Yeah, that's it. So listen, thanks very much for taking the time out to do last word on Formula One, and we look forward to we might do something special next week for the weekend, or for next week. We'd be looking forward to the next one. So
exactly.